Welcome to Your Legacy Stories podcast. Your host, Natalie McQueen, helps people from all walks of life to create, live, and preserve their legacy for future generations to enjoy. Natalie became a legacy designer after a near-death experience that made her completely reevaluate the legacy she was leaving in this world. She is also a book publisher who has guided over 500 authors to become international bestsellers. Natalie's mission is to help you craft the legacy you deserve, encourage you to live it to the fullest, and then preserve it for future generations to enjoy. On this show, her guests share moments of purpose, gratitude, wisdom, and tradition, and of course, their legacy stories.
Well, hello, everyone. This is Natalie McQueen with Your Legacy Stories podcast. Today, we have a special guest, Gina Matteson. And Gina is an award-winning entrepreneur, CEO, author, and champion of self-discovery, love, and empowerment. With over 20 years of experience in IT recruitment, she built a reputation for leading with integrity and authenticity. After working for several larger companies, Gina took a leap into launching her own firm, GemTek Recruiting, for just 10 days before COVID hit. Surviving this challenge made her stronger and more resilient, reinforcing her people-first approach. Now, as a founder and CEO of GemTek, Gina transforms businesses across the US and Canada with her groundbreaking AI-integrated connective intelligence process. As a dynamic leader, she's known for her kindness and commitment to responsible recruitment and exceptional client service. Outside the office, Gina lives in Canada and loves to spend time with her husband and 2 children, and she pursues her passion for storytelling. Her debut novel, A Thousand Masks, is a compelling tale inspired by true events exploring the power of self-love and resilience. Gina's mission is to empower others to embrace their authentic selves and lead with purpose. Gina, I am so excited to speak with you today. We have just had so much fun getting to know each other. And when I found out what you do and how you do it different, you are making the world a better place, and I knew I needed to interview you. So welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy and honored to be here with you, Natalie. Likewise, getting to know you has been a blessing, and I also love what you're doing, and I'm very, very happy to be here with you.
Yeah, well, that's exciting. I have a feeling just from our conversations, we're gonna go big places and make the world a better place together.
Absolutely. Yes.
So we have a lot to cover today, but I really wanted to, we're gonna give the listeners a little bit about your book, but not too much because we have some exciting things coming up. But I want people to know, first of all, who you are, why you started, why you were inspired to start your company, GemTek, and how was your journey from working for larger firms to launching your own company shaped, and how have you changed the approach of recruitment?
Yeah, thank you. No, that's a great question. And Natalie, I've always been, as you mentioned in the intro, very passionate about people. And so when I got into the recruiting space, it was actually 1999, and I've done nothing else since then. And so I've remained, it's been over 20 years now, living within Canada and the United States. And so really, so going from, to answer your question, going from large corporations that were, $2 billion recruitment companies that operate very differently than, of course, a smaller enterprise does. I was really driven to do this because I saw that I learned over the time, and as we share my story, that the values and morals that I hold near and dear to everything that I do just weren't the same. They weren't the same where I was. And it's not to say that it was necessarily a bad thing with my other companies. I've worked for some really great people, but at the end of the day, your recruiting really, in my opinion, has to be about the people and the clients. And I've noticed that in this recruiting industry, it's a lot about the client needs. And
Right.
that is, of course, a huge component of this. But equally as important and often forgotten are the candidate side of it, right? Preparing them, letting them know who they're really interviewing with, helping them be that catalyst, understanding the goals, what their journey is, really getting to understand people at a deeper level rather than just sending off a resume and saying, hey, this checked the boxes of your job description.
Right. Yeah, you said a couple things, and I know we're going to touch on it in a little bit, but when you said that, it's like, it's so true. The bigger corporations can often just do what is good for the budget and not care that that's a crisis on that family or changing their whole family dynamics, for no vacation, or how are we going to do this, or Johnny doesn't get to play baseball anymore. Like,
Yes.
they just don't understand that they're dealing, or maybe they do, but they turn the other way.
Right, right. And that, this is, large companies have a different set of sort of value systems and different sets of processes that they need to go with. But I'll say, that I've managed large accounts that were $25 million, right, for the United States, in the financial services sector. And I'll just give a brief example, and it kind of explains really exactly how I think and how I operate. And that was, I had a client that I had over 150 people billing at, and it was about $25 million a year for the company I was working with. And one day they just came to every vendor and said, you're taking a 15% cut, starting Monday, which it was like third. So, I was really perplexed by this, because in my heart, I'm thinking what you just said, these are people's lives. We're not selling chairs. These are people. And so I called upon a couple of colleagues of mine, some competitors, but colleagues of mine, and said, like, how are you going to handle this? And I was utterly shocked, Natalie, when they said it's already done. I was like, and what does this mean? And they said, we had HR draft a letter and they're taking a pay cut starting Monday. And I'm like, so you put it all on them? And I was shocked. And I went home and I really thought about it. And I thought, okay, they have allowed me to run this account. I'm going to. So without question, I called every one of my 150 plus candidates, and I said, this is awful news, and I'm sorry, but this is what the reality is. But we are in it with you. I am in it with you. My company is. You're going to take 7.5%, and we are. So we're both equally sharing it. And I didn't ask for that. I didn't ask for permission for this, because no way I doing it anyway else. And to this day, I still talk with the candidates, and I had zero turnover in that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's a little bit of caring. It's showing that you realize that, things have to be done. Like, I've seen it in many bigger companies. I was with Morgan Stanley. Well, it was Smith Barney.
Yes.
And then we went to Morgan Stanley Smith Barney. And then we went to Citi. And then, and then, yeah. So every culture was a little different. Everything Smith Barney was amazing as far as treating us like we work hard, but we're going to gift you to go donate, to be part of the community, to do the little things that team build as well, right? So we would go all together and we would work at this soup kitchen, and we would go pack food boxes for the day. Like, it was exhausting, but it was and you got to know the people better. it felt good that you were putting in these hours that you were still paid for
Yeah.
and did something good for the community.
Fills your cup.
And then,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when we merged, that was taken away. And then that other things were taken away. And then it was like, you get to choose if you get to be sick or go on vacation. It's all in one pool. It's like, what? And, you know, I had a friend that was a single mom. And so when her child was sick, well, there goes her vacation as well, you know? So yeah,
That's
it's, it comes down to, what business has to do, but then also how does it affect the individuals that are giving you their life, their time, their commitment, their loyalty
yes.
for years and years. And often those are the people that can be hurt in the situations.
Absolutely. And
So
you mentioned something, and it brought just a memory back as well when you talked about single mothers and just people who are perhaps single parent families, right? And
yeah.
them having to use their vacation times. And I remember just I had submitted a candidate that hadn't been in the workforce for about 3 or 4 years, which my client in turn said she hasn't been in the market for 4 years. She's out of date, basically. And I said, no, you're looking for a project manager with some business analysis. And if you need any better negotiator, talk to a mother that's been taking care of her children for the last 4 years. So these skills are transferable. And I actually had them, I made them understand this and then ended up hiring her, and it worked out wonderfully. So
Wow.
when you come from that place and you respect people and treat people like that, you can
Yep.
shift the way clients think. And that's where GemTek and why I really wanted to do that, because I was going to work with clients who were shapeable.
Yeah, that's
Would be
amazing.
to understand it and see things a little bit differently.
So speaking in that, so GemTek's recruitment process, you talk about how you combined AI and human intelligence through your connective intelligence process. Can you kind of share how this approach stands out and benefits your clients?
Absolutely. I'm so excited. Thank you for asking. Very excited about it. So GemTek is just over 4 years old now. And so we have been working on, my colleague and I have been working on a process, because we all know AI is coming in all different forms and different shapes and sizes. And, you know, obviously I firmly believe in the human connection and doing what's right by everybody involved. But of course, AI was there. And in order to really embrace technology and innovation, we came up with connective intelligence. And what that is, you know, I can pose. So first, I'll give a live example of something we just did. So we had a client who was in a crisis. They needed cybersecurity people, and it was extremely urgent. We did a presentation, got the funding right away for it. And so with our new connective intelligence process, we posted a job. We had over 70 resumes within a couple of hours. So
Wow.
sourcing through that, right, to find out the top ones. Usually before this, that was a completely a manual task. And so our new process and our connective intelligence will go through all the resumes. We match them up against a job description, and they will literally, and we'll challenge the platform that we've built, and we'll challenge it to say, okay, who are our top 10, for example? Why are they our top 10? What are they lacking? What are their strengths? How can we help them? And we'll go back and back and back until we're sure that we got the best of the 10 people that applied. And then the H factor, the human factor. And that is a very in-depth interview with them, usually on virtually, because we work with clients all over, but a very in-depth interview where we can gauge the soft skills that cannot be gauged in AI, no matter which way somebody wants to say they can. It's all about the connection, right? And so now we've got this wonderful intelligence of how they fit, but do they fit the company? Do they, because we only work with clients where we understand their culture, we understand the dynamics, we understand their vision, their goals, all of that. We really want to be our client's brand ambassador. So with connective intelligence, we had this need that came up that was urgent because a number of hospitals were cyber breached, and it brought everything back to sort of the dark ages. And so they needed these people. So within about a week and a half, we had submitted 2 people for each job, and both were filled within
Wow.
1.5 weeks or 2 weeks with notice. And I've never seen anything like it, Natalie. Never in my 22 years. That would have taken a long time to do. In fact, I had another position as well, and it was a CEO level position. And within a week, we submitted our top 2, and they said, we're going to hire this one. And if that one doesn't accept, we're going to hire your second. So
Wow.
imagine the
So
time.
you're right on with what the connections, because you're understanding your client, and then you're finding these people that are the perfect fit for their culture and for what they're looking for the job.
Yes, absolutely. And it saves our clients so much time. And we have had amazing reviews because, we do a pulse check. This is new, right? We're all learning sort of with AI. And we do a pulse check, and we're refining and continuing to make it better. But it really is that perfect blend, and it's changing lives, and it's changing how people
It really
hire,
is.
working phenomenally well, because I've never in my 22 years had a job where I could literally submit and say, you know what, this is your rock star. And it's their rock star. And they're thinking, well, I had one client say, well, can I see other people? I'm like, I've interviewed 20 people.
Yeah.
Promise you, this is the one. And they understand, because we have that relationship. So it's really quite something.
That's really, so people, well, they don't understand how much it costs a company to hire someone, train someone, get them all set up in their job. And then if it doesn't work out, to do it again, it's thousands of dollars.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you get it right, that's amazing.
Sometimes when people, not challenge the fees, it's quite known. I mean, we're very, very competitive in our pricing, especially for the services that we're doing, but we want it to be fair for everybody. But yes, it's when you're able to produce something so quickly. Sometimes I had one client say, like, this happened really fast. And I'm like, I assure you, no steps were mistaken. If anything, we've gone way above and beyond than what I would have been able to do a decade ago. And it turns out they end up calling me. One ended up calling me earlier this week and said, that's the best hire I've ever done. And
wow.
I'm like, well, the proof is in the pudding. So
Exactly.
We're loving it. And so are our clients and candidates.
Yeah. Well, you said that GemTek places a strong emphasis on values such as kindness and responsibility recruitment. So how do these values influence your business strategies and client relationships?
Yeah. So when we work with a client, we really view ourselves as their brand ambassador, and we explain that. And they're like, what does that mean? And I said, well, if you take an approach where you're calling 5 companies, for an example, and you're saying, okay, everybody, here's a job description. Let me know what you got. Well, you don't know how those companies are talking to your potential future employees. And so I look for companies who want to work directly with me and with GemTek, because when we call a candidate, it isn't just, here's the job, do you fit, do you like it, great, we're submitting and we hope it sticks. We're really understanding them. We're explaining the company dynamics. We're explaining, what does a day look like working there? Does that match your goals? If it doesn't, that's okay. We'll look for something else for you. But really having that emphasis of being a brand ambassador to our clients, but also to our candidates. And the candidates that don't get the job, they still hear from us, because they want to know, why didn't I get the job? And they deserve to know, right? Was it the resume? Now, we'll also do that just as part of our process. Look, your resume can use some updating. Let us guide you through that. Let us help you with that. And even if it's not for this, it'll help you in your other roles, even if we're not. And so really just taking that approach with candidates, that is really all about them. What are your goals? Where do you want to be? And if it's not the right fit, I have no problem saying, look, you're not going to be happy here. or my client this isn't going to be a fit for the client, but let's find you where you're a fit. And we do that. And that to me is such a big benefit, because that, like you said, it costs money. And so clients, they'll write a check for the services they provide. We do provide a 90-day guarantee. So if it doesn't happen to work out, I'll say that I think twice in my entire 22 years have I ever had to replace somebody, which is quite unusual in every market that I worked in. But I guess I've just always sort of followed my heart when that's concerned. But especially with this new model, that guarantee is there, and it's there for candidates and for clients, really, to make sure.
I like what you said about the client. Like, so an average person should be coming to you to get a job, right? Like not going to ZipRecruiter or some other, because you're going to be more personable to find them a position, or
so I'm a little bit hesitant on that, just only because I would never want anyone to sort of limit what they're getting access to. So yes, however Indeed scrapes jobs, and so that personal touch is not going to be there. You're just going to be applying and hoping that the client reaches out to you.
Well, and I said that because a friend of mine lost her job, was applying for jobs, and it would show on, I forget who it was, 485 candidates applied for the same position and no response. So you're like, did they get my resume? Do I have a chance? Why didn't I even get an interview? Like, there's just no response.
Exactly. And that's where clients who are trying to fill their jobs themselves get really far behind, right? Like, I had one client that was like, I need a director, and I've been putting it out there. It's been since January. This was back in September, just a few weeks ago. And they're like, it's been 9 months. And I'm like, I will have that filled for you in 1 week. Just give it to me. And I did. And the candidate is fantastic. He's happy. The client's happy. So yes, that personal touch. So while I wouldn't say don't apply to other job postings, but absolutely working with a client, like with a company like GemTek, we truly care and we value and we keep in mind what people's goals are. It isn't just this square peg round hole thing is never what we do. So if it's not a fit, and I truly think the candidate won't be happy or the client won't be, we're going to pivot and go into a different direction. And then it didn't work out. Let's say they even interviewed and it didn't work out. They went with, say, a second candidate. We'll share why, right? This candidate had X amount more experience, or this, this is what happened. Any information for a candidate, they need that. It's all over LinkedIn. Candidates are screaming because they're doing all this work and they're not getting any feedback. And that's just not how we operate.
So you've got over 20 years of IT recruitment and building lasting partnerships. What advice do you have for companies looking to create strong relationships with top talent in highly competitive markets?
Work with GemTek.
There you go. Boom. Drop the mic.
Yes, work with us. Because this is a highly competitive marketplace.
It is.
People are able to change their resumes. It doesn't necessarily match, right? I've been in this business for a long time. I've seen the other side of it where it's like, I get a resume, the person who showed up to start a job, it's not the same person. And so AI now, if you'll notice, if you go to LinkedIn, you'll apply to a job. Hey, let AI tailor your resume to make sure you show up better. It does that now in LinkedIn. And you can use any AI and just say, hey, here's a job description, make my resume look like I'm a perfect fit. And then the company thinks they have a perfect fit. They do an interview. They've wasted all that time because it wasn't. And so when you work with GemTek, all that, might drop again, all that is taken care of for you, because not only are we making sure we're getting the best in class, it allows our clients to stay in their genius zone. Stay in your zone. You're busy. You are, whatever your role is within the organization, you're busy. You've got things to do. Let us handle this. And we're going to hit it on the mark every time. And if I tell my clients, if I've submitted a candidate, I'm going to send probably 2, and that's it. If I've submitted somebody and they're like, wow, that's not it at all, open communication. Tell me exactly what I've missed. We pivot, we change it, and then we get the right person, right? It's a partnership. It's an open and transparent dialogue all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that just opened my eyes hugely, because think about this. You're a company and you get 400 applications for one position, right? So they have to, first of all, somehow sort through all of those and then probably pick the top whatever, 10, 20, 30 to interview or cut down some way. Or, I know, I remember my friend saying that they do almost Zoom interviews.
Yep.
And then, yeah. And so they're wasting all that time trying to find where you narrow it down and go on a silver platter. Here you go. Yeah, that's awesome.
I always, and I like the statement because I think it rings very true, is that what we're trying to do is get our clients the best in class, get candidates that are really in the roles that they want to be in, and ultimately let our clients stay in their genius zone. I love that statement because that's really what we do. I had a client of mine who's been exclusive with me for over a decade. Unheard of in the industry to be exclusive with one person, because they follow me from company to company. Been exclusive with me, and I filled over 100 roles now with them. And
Wow.
I literally had, once you're with a client for enough time, I go in, I visit, I actually look at the facilities, get an understanding, meet people. And one of the CTOs called me and said, look, I need a network engineer. It was Friday afternoon. He's like, and I'm like, you're sick. You're really sick right now. You can hear it. And he's like, I am. I'm like, I don't even need your job description. Go back to bed. Next Thursday on your calendar, book out these three, and I'm going to have my top three already set for you. And
Wow.
to look at resumes, go back to bed, please get better. And the next week, he had 3 of my top 10 of my
Wow.
candidates, and he hired it, and it was done.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's incredible. Like, I knew that you had something special that people needed to know, but now when you look at it like that, how you're allowing the companies to continue doing what they're doing, bring in the best that is ideal for them and ideal for that candidate as a long-term relationship.
Yes.
And then on top of that, it's really about seeing how you care for both sides, like flying out and understanding their company and seeing and meeting the people and stuff.
Yeah.
That's, I don't think Indeed's doing that. Like, I shouldn't pick on anyone. I have nothing against Indeed, by the way.
Yeah, no, but just in general, yes, that's not
Yeah.
the approach, right? And I'm actually looking to take on a new client right now, and she said, are you willing to come out to New Jersey and look at our facility? They do a number of different things, and she wanted me to see the environment. I was like, absolutely. So if we're doing this, absolutely. And I think that's really the difference there, is that I like, we've been calling it white glove premier service. This is white glove premier service, that we are literally taking care of all of it. So I had that client that I mentioned to you that's been exclusive for so long as well. They needed, and I have never found a regulatory lawyer, did not know what a regulatory lawyer was. And they said, well, we need one. And I was like, okay, I got it. I know the company, obviously. I've been working with them for
Right.
and I think it took less than 2 weeks, and I had filled the role. And she had started off by saying, Gina, I don't think you'll be able to do it. We've been trying. It's a needle in a haystack. That was her exact words, a needle in a haystack. And in 2 weeks, I found her a regulatory lawyer without knowing anything about it, but I needed them. And
Right.
I'm in this industry long enough to figure out what a regulatory lawyer does,
Right.
do what, right? And I think about 6 months after that person was in the role, she said, Gina, I know you had never worked on this before and you don't know anything about law or anything like that. She's like, that was by far the best hire I've ever done in my career.
Oh, wow.
Oh my
Nailed
goodness.
it.
9, because I was like, I was so happy for my client, and I was so happy for the candidate, because the candidate was ecstatic. They're like, Gina, you found me my dream job. And I was like,
So how big of a company or how small of a company can you work with?
I don't like to limit myself, Natalie. And
Okay.
a lot of training seminars, I get emails often that want to coach and train and help me refine what I'm doing and whatnot.
Sure.
And they all say, you need to niche, Gina. You need to say, this is what you do. You're only going to do CEOs. You're only going to work on IT. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I'm limiting myself, and my capabilities are far beyond that. And how can I say I'm a white glove premier service, but I only work on one type of role for you,
Sure.
or one vertical within your large organization? So I don't like to limit myself from that perspective. I will say that I don't work sort of in the blue collar sector, because it's a very different recruiting cycle. It's not because it's blue collar or anything like that. It's just a very different recruiting cycle.
Yeah. What about a small business owner growing their company, or an entrepreneur expanding and that type of thing?
Yes. Yes. And even there, I was talking with that potential new client of mine. And they said, we really, really need a payroll clerk. And I've filled payroll clerks quite well in the past. But it's not necessarily what we go after. But I said,
Yeah.
if that help, absolutely, no problem. Yep, we'll do that, because they're a client of ours, and then we want to, that's our solution, our white glove service. So if I couldn't do it, I would just say no. And here is a potential other company that I think really specializes in that. But if I
Yeah.
do it, and especially with our new connective intelligence, I really don't feel I need to say no to these roles. And I don't want to, because I really do want to provide that level of service to my clients.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
All right. So, well, before we go into the legacy questions, I want to ask you one more thing that kind of ties in the book. We're going to just touch on it a little bit, but how does your company and your book, A Thousand Masks, reflect your commitment to serving others? And what does your mantra of living on purpose mean to you?
I actually had a license plate with living life on purpose in short form.
Oh,
I love living life on purpose, right? And you and I talked about this before. Um,
yep.
so the book that's out, in the way it really all comes down to people, and my genuine desire throughout my corporate career, my personal life, and throughout just my journey as a whole, has always come from the foundation of living life on purpose and learning how to heal wounds and to be kind to people, right? And especially now when there's so much going on in the world. Um, Kindness and forgiveness were something I really, really wanted to talk about. So my book is inspired by true events, because I really wanted to share my story. And it's not easy to put yourself in a vulnerable position where you're sharing, some difficult parts of your life, right? But I have healed from those. And so my thought when I went with the book, because I'm not an author by trade, I do recruiting, but I thought, I have this story and it needs to be shared. And it needs to be shared. And it goes, I guess, because throughout my corporate career, with my book, with my family, I want to help people. I want to help people become resilient. I want to help people heal. I want to be that person that is letting others know that they're not alone. Often when we live now, especially when we're more remote, there's a lot of isolation out there. And so the book, when I came up with the idea for the book, I was like, I really need to share this. It's not going to, and I wondered, how is this going to affect my professional career, right? I
Sure.
mean, opening yourself up. People who have read my book and who have worked with me said, way to go. Like, way to go. You put yourself in a vulnerable position in order to help others. And that's what it all comes down to. My genuine love of people, despite all the things that I've had to go through in life. I've worked through those things to become the woman that I am today. And
Yeah.
anything that I can do, whether it's through GemTek, my book, speaking engagements, whatever comes my way and on my plate, that's the absolute focus, is that I want people to learn that they can live life on purpose. They can forgive themselves, most importantly, forgive others, because holding on to any of that is never healthy, whether it's professionally or personally.
Absolutely. I love that in so many ways, because none of us, have had a perfect life. And I was one of the worst for not wanting to share anything that wasn't perfect, right? And when I had my near-death experience and knew I had to write my book and share what was on my heart, and just to let others know, like, don't let this happen to you. Don't let time go by and you're 80 and you haven't lived that life that you were meant to live.
Right.
We are able to create the life, live the life, and preserve the life for others to enjoy. And so
What you were able to do that as well, and to share that story and all the wonderful things that you've accomplished. It's great.
well, thank you. But what I really found was when I was open and honest, and I remember in Las Vegas, I was speaking in front, it was probably 125 people. So I am not a natural speaker that can get up in front of 5,000 people and not be nervous. So I was nervous,
Right.
but I had done this talk a couple times,
Mhm.
and I got to a point and I started to tear up. And I was like, whoa, where's this coming from?
Yeah.
And then I was trying to pull myself together. And a colleague of mine, he said, I've never seen you, fall apart like that before.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know why, hormones, who knows, like what that came up. But he said, it was so authentic. And I noticed the people that came up to you after your talk and connected. And it's okay that you're not perfect. It's okay to let people know that, crap happens in your life
Agree.
and get through it. And often it makes ourselves stronger. It makes we have a purpose to help others not do the same, or that we can build a company that does things better to
Yeah.
help people, like just on and on. So yeah,
That's
I have
wonderful.
learned.
And I think that you being vulnerable like that, like you said, like, where is this coming from? I've got to compose, right? And that,
Right.
like you said, like, it didn't come naturally to want to necessarily share these deep, dark things. And
Yep.
it's not easy. But
Right.
I think, like, kind of like when I was preparing for this, I had all these notes, and I'm like, I'm just going to talk from the heart. And because then it becomes just more authentic and more real, and people saw you, and they are the same way, right? These are, a lot of people are triggered by some of these things that when we're speaking about our vulnerabilities and our tragedies, in hopes to help others in some capacity, them seeing that in us helps them. So I think it's wonderful that you just embrace it and learn to go with it.
Doesn't mean I still don't get nervous, but
But
I am more open to just letting it roll and not trying to be so, exact.
Yeah.
I think my formatter, he laughs and he's like, you are such a tile setter, because I like everything like this step and then this and then this and it's that checklist and everything so that's how I like to do my presentation, like this and this next.
Yeah.
And now I've learned to be
Here.
a little more easygoing and just share. And if something else comes up that I feel like I need to talk about, just do it.
Love it. I love it. Yeah.
All right, so let's get to the last two legacy questions.
Okay.
So I call it my legacy list.
Okay.
And the legacy list is things you want to accomplish, things you want to be remembered for, things that you want to make a difference in the world, or actually, make that ripple effect, and experiences you want to have. So what is on your legacy list?
So what I want to be remembered for, it's an emotional one, right? It's a big one, because I'm also a mother and I have 2 children, and my book topics make that even scarier. I think the legacy that I want to leave behind is to not let people take advantage of you, because especially, it's not to say that men don't have the same things, but as a woman, and having gone through the tragedies as a young girl, and how that shifted my entire life, and how it made me vulnerable, and even seeing how that changed in the corporate world and all of that, I have learned, I don't know how, Natalie, to this day, I don't know how, but I want to be known for my unconditional love and acceptance of people. To me, it doesn't matter the election's coming. Doesn't matter to me who people are voting for. Doesn't matter to me someone's religious beliefs. I believe in 2 ears, 1 mouth. I want to listen. I want to learn from other people. I do not judge. It's not my place. So what I want to leave behind, and I think of my daughter when I think of this, right? Because we were just singing actually about 15 minutes ago. But I want her to know that it's to not let anyone take advantage of you, to speak up for yourself, even when it's hard. Yep.
Use your voice.
Yep. Speak up for yourself, stand up for yourself. I've had times in my career where I've done that, and it wasn't easy, and it can be very difficult, but I stayed true regardless. It cost me my job in Phoenix. It cost me my previous marriage. It cost me a lot, but I would not stand for racism. I would not stand for ageism. I would not stand for sexual harassment. I will not stand for those things, no matter what it costs. I will stand up for myself. And that's the legacy that I want people to know, is that I want to cultivate a space in people's lives where they strive to love and be compassionate and empathetic. And my 12-year-old son, actually, I wasn't going to mention this, but my 12-year-old son, I just celebrated my 10-year wedding anniversary, and I was in Old Quebec City. And I was watching my son at school via webcam, and he got called up, and it was the only and the first time they've ever done a leadership. It was actually a medal with his engraved name, and it was a strong leader that shows empathy and love to all, and voted by the students.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
I cried, and hear me, but I was like, that is what I want. I want my children and other people to lead with empathy towards other people, and this unconditional love and support for yourself and for others.
That's amazing. Yeah, we talked a little bit about that, about supporting each other and seeing the world as an abundant world and not competitive, not, dog eat dog or tear someone down so you can come up. Why not elevate all of us, right? I love that.
The world is big enough for us all, and there's no reason to do any of that to anybody. I am very much a believer of holding everybody up, but especially as a woman, we talked about this. Just I'm all in. I love your story. I love what we're doing. I love what I'm doing, and I'm sharing this with my children to lead with empathy, and it's just so important, especially today.
Great. Love it. All right. So what is one experience that you want to experience and you haven't yet? Any life experience?
Okay, let me think if I put any thoughts to this. Was this like sort of on the bucket list of things that I might want to do that I haven't? Okay.
Yep.
Um, let me just think for just a moment. 'Cause it's such an important question. So
Could be
my thought-
skydiving. It could be crossing Europe with your feet. It could be becoming a community leader or teaching women to use their voices. It can be anything that you want to do and haven't yet.
Okay. I would honestly, I would love to be able to start speaking with young women, maybe young mothers, any parents. I think I'd like to start speaking with people and sharing my experiences, because I am healed from those, right? And so when I learned to let go of that and forgive myself for my own shame,
Yep.
others for what they've done to me, it opened up a whole different universe for me. And so if I could get to a point where this is what I'm doing and I'm able to help others and speak on stages and really get that empathy, that self-forgiveness, that reliance out, that would be my goal. And
Yeah. Self-forgiveness is just
pivotal.
so needed in this world, right? We hang on to our mistakes and we look in the rearview mirror and keep from going forward. So yeah, that's so important. I'm behind you.
And I think out of everything I've gone through, which is a lot, throughout my years, as many people have, it was the self-forgiveness that was the hardest.
Yeah.
Forgiving somebody else, I could do that because I genuinely look at other people and where are they coming from and whatnot. But self-forgiveness is a hard one for me.
Yeah.
And I think it's a hard one for a lot of people.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so I think now that I feel that I'm there, and that was the reason I could write the book, I'd really like to share that message. I really would.
Well, let's do it.
Yeah.
So if people want to connect with you, what's the best way to connect?
I would say probably emailing me. So I do have like a personal website as well as GemTek website. So I would say either, if people wanted to learn more, it's GinaMatteson.com. And then for GemTek, it's GemTek.company. And then to connect with me, honestly, I put my cell phone out there. I like when people just pick up the phone. You called me and you're like, let's schedule.
I know we've been back and forth for what, a month. We're like, oh, and then I just got back from a 9-day tour of craziness, but amazingness. And so I'm like, you know what? We have to connect.
Pick up the phone and you did it. And I love that. And so really people could just pick up the phone and call me, honestly, regarding any of this, any of the stuff that we're doing, any of these topics. People can just call me or they can email me.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Gina. I will have this up in the show notes. I'll have your bio and all the links to get hold of you. Follow Gina, reach out to her, connect with her. She's such an amazing person. And think about using her services to either get yourself hired or your company bring in that best match for you. So thank you so much, and we will speak to you later.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Your Legacy Story Podcast. If you would like to share your legacy story with Natalie or get your legacy book started, please reach out at giftsoflegacy@gmail.com. Be sure to add My Legacy Stories in the subject line. We would love to help you share your legacy message out to the world. Natalie would like to invite you to join our private Facebook group, Create Your Legacy Life. She shares tips on book publishing, ways to create and leave your legacy, and she interviews the most amazing legacy creators, sharing their moments of purpose, gratitude, wisdom and tradition, and of course, their legacy stories. See you next week.